made this year by Maya and her team in Texas. So I'm just going to quickly introduce myself, and Maya will introduce herself, and we'll just get into a conversation. And then we're going to go into a deeper dive July 10th on our webinar for members only. But today we wanted to at least give you a high-level overview to everybody about what has happened in Texas, the great state of Texas. So again, I'm Heidi Sanborn. I'm the founding director of the National Stewardship Action Council and the Stewardship Action Foundation. And we are a 501c4 and a 501c3. The C4 does the advocacy and lobbying. The C3 does the education and outreach. And we do national work trying to make sure we have good, solid, thoughtful processes to get to really good policy that works for everybody when it comes to producer responsibility. And that includes recycling refunds and everything around advocating for a responsible circular economy. So with that, I want to turn it over to Maya to introduce herself, and then we'll take it from there and get into conversation.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Really happy to be here. Happy to be vice chair of NSAC and working with you and the board and great members that we have. Also the president of Texans for Clean Water. And we are very proud of our success in this last legislative session and looking forward to discussing it with you and whomever's on the line today and getting into some deeper dive in a couple weeks. So very happy to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. We wanted to do this now because, there's so much going on in the country regarding producer responsibility, should include recycling refunds, AKA bottle bills. And everybody who doesn't know, the Can Manufacturers Institute did a great study and a poll and found that recycling refunds, the name, polls way better with the public than bottle bill, understandably, when you really think about it. So we're changing our language around that. So it's recycling refund, but we mean a bottle bill to those of you who've been around a while. And there's discussions in Maine about their old bottle bill and how to fix it, and New York, and do we include packaging? But to have Tennessee introduce EPR for packaging, and to have Washington just pass it, and Maryland just pass it, and now we've got Texas. And you've been working on Texas and in Texas for a long time. So why don't you tell us about what led up to HB 2048, and why did it make it so much further this year, do you think?
Well, we have been working on this for quite some time, and I will say that Texans for Clean Water is a group of just that, of Texans who are business people and philanthropists, and who are frankly sick of seeing waterways trashed with trash. And what we've learned is about 85% of the material that is littered in Texas would have been otherwise readily recyclable. And that includes much of it being PET plastic bottles. We also throw out the more aluminum cans than any other state in the nation. So Texas is the biggest state with the lowest recycling rate. And we at Texans for Clean Water, frankly, would much rather see this material in the streams of commerce and not actual streams. So we have been working for many sessions now, and every session we change the bill a little bit, but the tenets stay the same. And those two tenets are, financial incentives for people to participate and a convenient collection system for away from home materials, or that stuff that's used outside of your home. And that's an important distinction, because you mentioned EPR, which is really taking off in a lot of other parts of the country. And EPR is great. We love EPR. EPR is wonderful for incentivizing curbside recycling, which is
an absolute EPR for packaging.
EPR for packaging, definitely. I will say though that we see that people don't throw their garbage out their kitchen window. A lot of times we're seeing it come out of their car windows. There you go. But so we think that an away from home collection methodology, along with, again, that financial incentive, that's what really works to get people engaged in the system. And so that's what we're really trying to push in Texas. And each session, we get a little closer to a bill that has that kind of momentum. And this session, we're really proud that the bill 2048, as you mentioned, had bipartisan support. And not only that, but the support of many industry groups, including the three major associations for the packaging that we're talking about. We have the Aluminum Association and the Association of Plastics Recyclers, Petra, the PET Resin Association, a Glass Packaging Institute. So along with a lot of fantastic brands, International Bottled Water Association, Red Bull. And I think one of the main reasons for that is the bill was very simple. It was a very simple effort that would have allowed industry. You mentioned EPR. It was an EPR bill. It would have had the producers of beverage containers come together and form a 501c3 that would conceive of and implement a plan to get 75% of those beverage containers back for recycling. So we were really excited about our authors. We had Representative John Lujan, Republican of San Antonio, and Senator Nathan Johnson, Democrat out of the Dallas area. Really worked together with five co-authors total in the House, seven. Well, five joint authors, seven co-authors. So really a great group that we've heard has publicly endorsed coming back and trying again next session. So we're really excited about it.
And you have every other year sessions in Texas, correct? So this would not come back now until 27.
That is correct. We are 140 days every odd year, which is kind of one of our favorite jokes. But it's also a misnomer to think that things don't happen in that interim year. So in this middle section between sessions, we hope to continue the discussions with stakeholders and build an even better bill for 2027.
And you had, so there was 12 legislators that were on the bill in support of both parties. And you had great support from the manufacturers, I think, and the recyclers. So what do you think slowed it down? What was the big barrier still to overcome?
Well, I tell you, it is hard to pass just about anything in Texas. The system is designed for small government. So, as you mentioned, 140 days to get just about anything done is challenging. We got off to a bit of a slow start in Texas in this session. We had to elect a new speaker of the House. And we just ran out of time, but we got all the way to the House calendar. So we made it unanimously out of the House Committee on Environmental Regulation, which is our first time ever doing that. And then we got out of the Calendars Committee and onto the slate for to be heard on the House floor. And we just missed a midnight deadline by just a few bills. So we are really happy and thankful to the House in particular for really moving it forward. And in fact, the chairman of the House Committee on Environmental Regulations, he signed on as a co-author. So we think that's a really important signal that we're ready to go for next session as well.
That's really exciting. And I know New Mexico, I was there, I keynoted at their conference last year, and their folks got very excited about recycling refunds because of the studies on the litter abatement, because they have a terrible litter problem. They've got a beautiful state. They attract a lot of tourists, but the bottles and cans are being left all over their state and littered, and they're really unhappy about it. So I know New Mexico is watching Texas very, very closely. And next year, they only have a very short session that's a budget session. But my prediction is that we'll have both states come back in 27 with recycling refunds.
And we would love that. We would love to see a regional approach. We think that that would be ideal in getting efficiencies of scale, et cetera. Also, West Virginia, they introduced a very similar deposit return bill, and we're excited to work with more states and see where we can accomplish some wins.
Now, I don't see any questions yet from Heath. He was going to text us if we had any, but one question I have is, what do you think are what are the things you're going to work on over this interim period to try and grease the skids to make sure this gets through next time around.
Well, we would love to continue taking legislators and stakeholders to see systems that are working and working well. Folks might remember a long time ago. They're old enough to remember when you could take your aluminum cans back to the store or recycler, or you could take your old milk bottle back. But it's been a while. So I think taking people to see systems that are working and active is really impactful. So we hope to take legislators to see the Oregon system, where it is an industry-led consortium, a co-op that runs their system, and it's been enormously successful. We'd also like to see if we could show off Australia. Australia's a long way from Texas, but they have deposit systems throughout the country now, and in fact have seen a 40% decrease in beach litter, and are attributing that to a deposit system. So again, we would love to get the point across that this happens in lots of other places in the world, and it works in lots of places, and we want to show folks that it can work here in Texas as well.
And the funny thing is, I see Australia being more of a sister kind of culture to Texas than I do Canada, where I usually, we take our legislators, I'm taking them in July to see Vancouver and Victoria, because their system is 20 years ahead of ours easily, whether it's, bottles and cans or hazardous waste on producer responsibility. But that is very interesting to think about Australia. And I'd love to help with that, because to me, I mean, we started these recycling challenge study trips in California with our legislators 7 years ago. In fact, a couple of those books back there are from our study trips to Oregon, Washington, and Canada. And the difference it made for us, and our legislators came back so inspired. They saw it firsthand. They could speak to it very authoritatively. Whereas before they were just do I believe this lobbyist? Do I believe this advocate? They saw it for themselves. They could call these people and text them themselves. Hey, how did this part work? How did that part work? And that makes them better bill authors, because they're able to be articulate on their own. They don't need any kind of coaching. It rolls off their tongue. And they get more committed to it, we found. So I look forward to working with you on that. I find these study trips incredibly helpful.
Totally, completely agree. I also saying I see a little comment or question in the chat about the economic analysis, and that's another really important aspect of getting these kind of policies traction. Is it's got to work economically, and in fact, we are lucky in Texas that we have very good data. And that data unfortunately shows that we are wasting so much resource. In fact, the Container Recycling Institute, CRI, they do an analysis of the beverage containers sold and lost, so to speak, in each state, and they are evaluating Texas as having lost $375 million worth of scrap value every year. And that a lot has to do with aluminum. Again, we are wasting so much aluminum, more than any other state in the nation.
Which, by the way,
And
takes a lot of energy to smelt, which is air pollution and power. So if you talk about greenhouse gases, I know not everybody talks about that, but for those who do, it's a huge impact when you're talking about one aluminum can power a TV for 4 hours. That's how much
absolutely.
embodied energy there is in there.
And with tariffs, love them or hate them, they are certainly pushing the issue for more domestic collection of material. So, with the economics of frankly wasting this valuable material, but also the cost to the state in cleaning up litter, quite
Yeah.
frankly, our TxDOT Department of Transportation spends over $50 million a year just picking up and throwing away somebody else's litter. And cities around the state, the city of Houston, fourth largest in the nation, they supported our bill. It's costing $22+ million per year to the city of Houston, which is taxpayer funded, to clean up litter. So there is an absolute economic argument as well as some great data that shows that people don't stop drinking soda and beer when a deposit is added. I think that also helps to move that narrative forward. That this is personal responsibility and it's an economic driver that goes hand in hand, and that has really helped the political dynamics change. I see another question in there from Steve, and I think that has really helped. Along
Mhm.
with the bill was a very industry focused bill. In Texas, we try and keep things simple, and so it was a simple bill that just allowed industry to take the reins and drive a system that worked, and drive a system that was based on the free market of how much people are willing to put in for that deposit. So our legislation didn't mention a deposit amount. It was, let's get to 75%, and however we can get there and get that material back into the marketplace is where we want to go, and
And I could
I
say
think
in
that made a big
Texas,
difference.
we've talked about this, Maya, about how much the plastic litter in particular, the cows will eat it and get very sick, and it costs high vet bills and kills cattle. It's not just wildlife, but like people's living. So there's a lot of reasons that people come to the table on these things. People don't want to see all that litter. Don't mess with Texas. People don't want to go to Texas and see like an entire river of floating bottles and cans and polystyrene. That's kind of what they're seeing in some places right now. You've showed us the videos of the Buffalo Bayou and how terribly polluted it is with litter. So we really hope, well, first of all, I want to congratulate you, Maya, because you've been absolutely tenacious and on point for years on this, and that's why it's gotten so far. So thank you for your leadership. I do see, as some of the questions have asked, that we have a pivotal point here. The cost of litter, the cost of pollution. I know in California, we have literal fines to local governments for letting plastics go out into the ocean if they don't capture it. So they want to turn the spigot off. It's a lot cheaper than having it cleaned up out of the water, which is always, we lose some anyway. And the microplastics issue is kind of the front. But we also, we're at a place where we've got to feed our plants. If we want to bring the jobs back to America, the plants that are already up and running are running one shift instead of three. The OI glass plant in Indiana is only running one shift. It could run three, and the shift it's running is off of Michigan bottle bill glass. It's not off of their own state because they don't have a recycling refund. So we've only got a couple of minutes. I would like to just wrap this up and say, if you found this interesting, do join us at the National Stewardship Action Council. Heath is going to put that in the chat. I can't see it. But that's how you join. It's very easy. Just go to our website. We're not very expensive. We're trying to spread it out over the country. The key is building the momentum together, learning from each other, and doing what is best for all the stakeholders, the best that we can do with the least amount of fighting, like trying to get the path of least resistance to get the most done. And that's what we're trying to do here at the National Stewardship Action Council with board members like Maya and others. So we encourage you to join us. We have a recycling refund working group where we talk about this every month, what's happening with this bill in Maryland, what's happening in DC in the fall with their bill. And if you're interested in that, you've got to be a member. So again, consider joining us. And then also we've got a follow-up on this July 10th at 10 to 11:30 Pacific time, so that we could do a much deeper dive on this. But we wanted to give you a sense and give the whole world a sense of the incredible progress made in Texas. Thank you in great part to Maya. So congratulations again, Maya. I think we're just about at time. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with?
Well, I just want to wrap up with a big thank you to NSAC and to you, Heidi. It's my absolute pleasure to support NSAC on the board, and you guys have been fantastic and supportive in Texas. And you're absolutely right. Just in closing, industry is such an important partner in this. This is definitely an economic solution to an environmental problem, and we think that that's going to take all sides to come together and build something that works. And I hope that you will all come back and we'll get deep into the nitty gritty in Texas and talk more about our lessons learned and how we can work together to spread this to other parts of the country and maybe the nation. So
Wouldn't
thanks
that
again,
be
Heidi.
wonderful to talk about harmonizing something that we've been doing for 50 years in 10 different states to the whole country? That makes a whole lot of sense. So again, StreamYard And that little bird with the $sign is because it's free. We're testing this platform out. We thank you so much for being here. We hope this was helpful. Hope you'll consider joining us and joining our working groups. And thanks, Maya, again for being here and for all your incredible work.
Thank you, Heidi.
Have a good day, everybody.